Hi friends, it's Sarah from rufflesandrainboots.com, and today we are making a no-sew Valentine's Day shelf sitter gnome. If you'd like to make it, boop, just stick around. I had a lot of fun with this. I hope you do too. Please like this video so I know you're here crafting with me. Here is a look at this full guy. We are going to have some detail on the hat, the nose, the full wraparound beard, these fabulous little booties, and fun details like the ruffles. So to get started, I'm going to be using a very heavy cotton. I would not recommend it. Just use normal cotton, knit, or fleece legs. The measurements are 2 at 10 by 3. I'm using fleece in the slopey shoe pattern. It's free. And I'm using fleece for the hat, the body, and the base of the Scandinavian Sweeties pattern. I'm just going to start by putting all right sides together and pinning it all in place. Then on the legs, I'm going to do a long bead of hot glue on that long edge with right sides together. Do both those legs and move on to the booties. You're just going to use your fine tip glue gun to go all the way around that foot portion, leaving the leg open. You can see that there. You get a little help from the pattern. Make sure you don't have any random fur like I just had floating around. All right, so we're just gonna set those aside after we get both booties done. Now I will tell you, this was a reader request. I have shared how to make the Scandinavian Sweeties pattern before. It's the best-selling pattern on Ruffles and Rain Boots. It's easy to work, either a sewn pattern or a no-sew pattern, which is probably why it's the most popular, but this was actually a reader request, and her request was the Scandi Sweeties pattern in a shelf sitter with no wire in the body. Now that's very interesting to me, because if you don't have a wire in the body, you don't have a bendable hat, and that is what I replied, and she replied with, I want wire in the legs. So that's what we're doing today. I'm using this very heavy cotton, which eventually ended up me launching it across my craft room. It actually went pretty far. I was impressed. But I'm just turning it out using a bamboo skewer. You can see I have a turner over there. I honestly cannot get that to work. I try every time. See, I tried it with that one. All right, so turn the legs inside out, or right side out, the booties inside out, and then we're going to move on to the base. So don't turn that right side out. You're going to put the right side of the base piece facing into the body. Don't go in from the bottom, go in from the top and secure right next to the seam. Hold it up, grab the southernmost portion of each of those and just align those two places, okay? Pin that, again, starting from the top. And now you have only to split the difference between your pins. And what I mean by that is you're just going to use your fingers to roll this out, and you see how it flattens? Now the reason I'm speeding this up is because I have shared this very often here on the channel. If you are new, let me know you're new in the comments, and I will put a link to a video where this is real time and I show you how to do this, either sewing or gluing, doesn't matter. But you're just going to do that all the way around, and it produces a flat bottom, even though the bottom piece looks like it's too small for the base. I promise you it all works. Once you have it all pinned, you're going to use your glue gun. Try to stay consistent here with how much glue you're using and how close you are to the edge. And that way, when you turn this in, or right sides out, it's actually going to be a cleaner seam than if you weren't paying attention. So just keep that in the back of your mind. I am speeding this up because this is actually a point where I take quite a bit of time. I go slow on this section because this is going to hold all our weight, our hat, our base, our fur, everything. Once you've checked your seams, pulling on them, turn it right side out and run the seams in between your finger. And now is the fun part. We are going to start with 1 cup of poly pellets, which are non-odor, non-moisture absorbing. I don't use food products in my gnomes. You can use sand in a bag, clean play sand. You can use aquarium gravel. You can use clean kitty litter, anything with weight that doesn't absorb moisture. I don't recommend food products. I don't recommend salt. They both can go very wrong. So we're going to use polyfill all the way up into the tip of that body and the base. I get asked a lot when you know it's enough, and it's if you squeeze it, it bounces back to its shape. It's right. Normally, this is the wire I would put in the body. I do want to show that to you because I find that is the best one for the body. I have tutorials on that. If you're new, I will put those down below. Just let me know in the comments. To close up the back body here, you can either hand sew it or you can do like I'm doing, which is just sectioning it off with pins. I am going to use the 3 sections so that I can use clips. When I do a little section, I'm going to glue it and then I'm going to clip it. And that way I can move a little bit faster. The clips help hold it in place for me while I'm gluing it. Just do that all the way up. I always drop test my gnomes, which means I want to make sure everything is distributed so that they always fall where I want them to. So I drop them on the table a couple times. I always rub them in between my hands to distribute the fill. Now I'm going to slip on the hat. Because we don't have a wire, we want to take a little extra time to make sure we get those 2 aligned. And then I'm going to pin the back. And I'm going to do that because we're going to be tugging on this, moving it around, and I want that to stay in place. So all I'm going to do is make sure the seams are aligned. There you go. And then just put it right there, either side of the seam. All right, now I'm going to work on the legs. So I am using a cotton. If you're using a fleece or a knit, you don't have to do this. I think it always looks a little nicer when you have a nice clean edge. So I'm tucking in the very 1/2 inch, like the very top, because it's going to be sitting under our body. Again, it's going to be covered, but we don't want it to fray. So I'm going to stuff my booties. You can weight them. If you don't use a wire in your leg, I would highly recommend adding some poly pellets into your boots so that the legs always fall flat. And kind of like drag that leg down. But always, you don't want to fill it all the way up. So I'm just showing you here, because the leg is going in, you need a little bit at the top where it's not filled, at least 1/2 inch. All right, I scrunch up the front, put a pin where my nose is because I need to like measure how long I want my legs because the booties do add quite a bit of length. So I ended up cutting my 10-inch leg down by about 1.5 inches. So that way, when I have the whole thing together, it looked a little long to me. This is the Dollar Tree wire. I'm using it because it's very pliable. This you can get in their like gardening section, and I'm just going to line it up to the top and add about 2 inches to the bottom. I turn over both the top and the bottom edges just so they don't poke through anything like my fleece or my cotton. And now I'm going to glue down the very edge that we folded in. You are going to have about 1 inch or 1.5 inches that you do not put polyfill in. So you can use a clip, like a sewing clip or even a sewing pin to make sure you do not stuff the leg all the way up because we need a bit to be flat under the booty. All right, so I tore into small pieces polyfill and kind of rubbed it in between my hands so that I could easily get it into the leg. Now, an amazing viewer left a comment who said she actually uses hemostats, and I ordered some like 5 minutes after she told me, but Seattle had a snowstorm and they arrived too late to show you, so I'll show you on the next one. Try not to use pointy scissors like I did. You could obviously poke through your leg and have to start over. All was well with mine, but I went very slowly. So before we close anything up, we're going to put the wire all along that back seam. Now, I know it's easy to just put the whole length of wire into the body of the shoe, like I just did here, and it'll look good on the outside. But you actually want to glue that wire down the seam of the leg and then line that wire up along the back edge of the booty. It really does make a difference. Plus, it's a little easier to move and manipulate. And then you can hot glue it down like I did. Or you can sew it if you really like sewing. I'm covering up mine with a ruffle, so it's hot glue for me. All right, so then I just repeated that with the second leg. And now here's how I'm going to attach mine. You can attach them straight out like this, or flayed out. And I like mine a little bit flayed. So what I did is I put a serious portion of hot glue on that flat portion that we left. And then I kind of splayed out the legs on either side of the seam. So I worked from the back, so you can see here, mine go out. But again, you can go straight down if you want. My little pin came out, so I have to put that back on because it's time for my favorite part. I'm using a very rough fur here to contrast the elegance of a little shelf sitter, I want to make it long enough that the bottom of the seam of my body lines up with the bottom of the fur, and that I have at least 1/2 inch to 1 inch on the top so it tucks under the hat. If you're new to cutting faux fur, I have an entire video. I'll link that below, but you're just going to cut the fabric backing and then pull it apart. All right, so I'm going to pull up the back of the hat, take those pins out. I'm going to align the front because that's the pretty part. And then I'm going to flip it over and glue it all down. You can absolutely sew this by hand. I am too lazy. Moving on. After I got it all on, I lifted up the bottom. I'll show you in just a second what I mean by that. And I glued all along the seam, close as I could to the seam, following this fur, making sure all the fur is out of the way. You see that? I will lift up that all the way around the edge and make sure that's secure. Now it's time to put my nose on, but I'm not going to start on the front. I'm actually starting on the back. So I'm just going to pop in where my nose needs to be, turn this over, and then secure down the back. So when you're working with a full wraparound beard, you don't want to glue to the fur. You want to glue to the fabric backing. So just split the fur and you'll find, see all that white right there? That's the fabric. I'm going to faux hem my hat all the way around, which is just add a little tack of hot glue, fold it under. I'm going to do that in a couple places, probably 3 in the back, 2 on the sides next to the nose. And the reason I did that is because I'm lazy and I saved this till the end. But you can always hem the hat prior to getting to this point. And then I put the glue on the fabric, not on the fur, and hold that until it's secure. And then I move to the nose. So I've split the fur to the fabric backing, and I'm using a 1-inch wood ball for the nose. You can use a bead, a felt ball, you can use a pom-pom, you can use nylon with polyfill stuffing, anything you'd like for your nose. Just make sure it's secured well. So I'm going to faux hem the little nose part and then attach that to the nose directly. And then I'm just going to finish tacking down the 2 sides. I do it in a couple places, just tack under the hem, and then I split the fur and attach that fur right to that fabric backing. Again, 2 times on either side or so, and it should be very secure. If you sell your gnomes, do tell people, don't lift them up by the hat, especially if you're not sewing. All right, so for my decorative Valentine bit, I just used a pink marker and made a little heart on his wooden nose. I had some lamb's wool that I had ripped off for a Christmas decoration that I didn't share with you yet, maybe next year. And I'm just going to glue that off center. I'm going to glue a large piece and a smaller leaf, and then I used this is actually a sticker. It's fabric, but it came from the sticker section, so I ripped off the sticker and just hot glued that to the center. Now for the little ruffles. I'm Ruffles and Rain Boots, so I thought this was cool. I am using an 8 3/4 length by 2-inch wide piece that I just literally cut off of the scrap fabric from when I cut the hat out. So you can see here 8 3/4 inch by 2 inches wide. You can use 9 inches. You can use 6 inches. It's mostly the 1 inch that matters here. So I'm just going to split this down the center. I don't know of a way to do this with hot glue. So if you do, please put it down in the comments section below. I'm using a knotted piece of embroidery thread. I'm going in from the wrong side of the fabric, and then I'm just making a running stitch down the center of my 1-inch piece of fleece. That's it, all the way down. I am going to speed this up because number 1, I don't sew that quickly, and number 2, I had to back up because I was listening to an audible book. All right, so I'm going to make sure that I end on the same side that I start. You can see me checking here. I do it every single time so that when I pull the 2 pieces together, it ruffles up. So I'm going to wrap that around the base of my leg here. Oh, it's already wrapped around. And then I'm going to make sure the right side is facing out. And then I'm just going to knot it. You can see. And it draws together. Make sure it's all the same facing, and then when you secure, or when you pull it tight, it secures into a nice little ruffle. And then all I did was just knotted a couple of more times because I'm paranoid. And then because I'm paranoid, after I aligned the back seam, I then added a dollop of glue on my knot before cutting off those strings. Because I'm paranoid. All right, so then I just took my hot glue gun, lined up those 2 edges on the start and the finish. And then I tacked it down in a couple of places right near that thread. And he's done. He's all done. He's ready. What do you think of him? Will you make him? Let me know down in the comments below what you think of this guy. Also down below you can get the links to the 2 patterns for the booty and the Scandi Sweeties. Now, as always, thank you for being here, and here is a Valentine's Day gnome playlist for you.